Gosh, my life is so hard.
What happened?
I ran out of data, so I can't send my streaks.
Bruh, don't say that. There are people who have it way worse than you. Think of all the soldiers that served in World War II. Just like what Mr. Anders said.
Oops, I was not listening during class.
Well then, let me enlighten you.
Life at the front was no happy place for soldiers during World War II. Soldiers were exposed to many newly invented dangerous weapons. Some of these consisted of dangerous gases to bombs dropped overhead by airplanes. For the soldiers who beat the odds and survived, the lingering effects of the war still followed them after their traumatic experiences. Similar to World War I, the front lines of the battlefield consisted of trench warfare. However, in World War II, the advancement in technology made it easier to gain land. Planes could bomb trenches in the air, and advanced mortars could lob shells to decimate the landscape. Chemical warfare was a big part, but a common myth is that Germany used many chemicals against the Allies. This is not true. Yes, the Nazis used gases in concentration camps, but not much was used on the battlefield. Even though there are at least 4,500 tons of chemical gas stockpiled and ready for use, Hitler did not use it because he did not want to spark a chemical retaliation from the Allies, which he planned the Allies would have a lot.
Soldiers have to fight the opposing side as much as disease in the trenches. As poor living conditions spawned disease epidemics that would quickly spread from man to man. Most of the disease were caused by contaminated water or unclean medical tools. The most common diseases from contaminated water consist of dysentery or cholera. And many soldiers who used a syringe or had inoculations contract hepatitis B.
Many soldiers suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, also known as PTSD. PTSD is a disorder that happens to people who have experienced shocking, scary, or traumatizing events. War, of course, is a traumatizing experience, so many soldiers had PTSD after the war. PTSD affects people differently and can be long-term or short-term. Symptoms may show up in a patient in the next coming week, or a year can pass before symptoms show up.
Children under the age of 18 who serves in the military is specified as a child soldier. Children can take direct part in hostilities as child soldiers. Children may be trained or used for combat, assigned to support roles such as porters or messengers, or used for tactical advantage as human shields, or for political advantage in propaganda. Reginald Hamilton Earnshaw is the youngest British child soldier to ever fight in World War II. He was 14 years old, but he lied about his age. He joined the military as a cabin boy. He died under enemy fire in the SS Nord Devon off the coast of Norfolk. It was not until 70 years later the military revealed his true age and shortly recognized as the youngest child soldier to ever fought in World War II. Some parents would gasp at their children playing with toy guns, but these Russian children are actually encouraged to take up real guns in World War II. Many child soldiers died around the world in World War II.
The Hitler Youth was one of the Nazi organizations. Founded in 1926, it physically trained youth and indoctrinated them with Nazi ideology to the point of fanaticism. At its peak, the organization led 8.8 million members, but was reduced as the war began to 1 million. The young men and women were taught to throw grenades, dig trenches, escape fires, and learned how to use bayonets. Some didn't get enough training, but they were still put up to the war front as child soldiers. This education was almost required for the German children, and the consequence of not joining was trial, which sometimes led to execution.
Letters home were an extremely important system of World War II. The soldiers gained most of their morale and comfort by the letters they received from their loved ones. Because their postal services became way too swamped, military ships were used to transport some of the letters. The ships became swamped as well from the bags and bags of letters that were taking up room supposed to be used for carrying ammunition and weapons, desperately needed at the fronts. This was an extremely important problem that needed to be dealt with fast.
This is why Britain created a new system of letter transportation called V-mail. V-mail was the process of microfilming letters and sending them to and from military personnel, transporting them by ship in microfilm form, and blowing them up again at specified locations before delivering them to their addresses. Sending the letters as thumb-sized images on microfilm allowed for the military to conserve precious space in their cargo ships while still arranging for the delivery of the morale-boosting letters.
Dear my love, Catherine, the war is awful. All I want is for it to end. The boys have been treating me well, although our spirits are at an all-time low. Our food and ammunition supplies are getting lower, and the weather hasn't been kind to us in these trenches. I hope Mum is coping with this all well. I know it has been extremely taxing for her, especially after Dad's death. There's nothing I wouldn't do to be back at home, holding you and our boy in my arms. I dream of the day I'm able to do so again. Send my love to everybody for me, and know that I will be home soon as I can. Yours truly, Elliot.
Many veterans that served in World War II have written about their time serving in the war. Many of the veterans talk about drills they do, homesickness, attacks and raids by the enemy, training, deaths of friends, and more horrors of war. There are many famous books and letters written about veterans who have served in World War II. The book, D-Day Survivor, an autobiography written by Harold Baumgarten, writes about his experience on D-Day as a U.S. soldier where he was wounded 5 times before he evacuated. Another book, With the Old Breed, written by E.B. Sledge, explains his experience training as a Marine recruit and his involvement with the Japanese forces in the Pacific. One biographical account of World War II veteran William Adelman reads, "My first action was the casino. The bombing and shooting was so intense. That's when the first one of our fellows that I personally knew got killed. And that was a rough time. We couldn't take that too easy. When the battle was over, reinforcements were coming up. They gave us the duties. Now, you guys just come and you have to be the burial squad. The burial squad. That was a real eye-opener for me. We took them and we wrapped them in blankets and stacked them like corn, which was a very, very tough time. It really ate into us, but after a while, even this you get used to. One day, we ran into another. It seemed like it would never end. We did a lot of praying then."
Soldiers suffered a lot during World War II, whether you were on the sea, in the air, or on the ground. No matter the age or race. All the while, the soldiers' families waiting to hear from their loved ones fighting for their country across the world. It was not an easy challenge to take on, and the memories were a great burden during and after the war.